Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly live stream of the Platformers. And today we are going to talk about a topic that is very interesting, and I personally get a lot of questions about it. Is what is destruction, and how should we build a team of platform engineering? And for that, we have a very special guest, Sergiu Petean, which is a director of cloud operations at Allianz Direct, and also a CNCF tab member, which is a really good organization and a group of people contributing to the open source. Sergio, how are you today?
Hi, good evening, everyone, or good morning, wherever you watch us. I'm feeling good. Always happy to talk about my passions, and this is one of them for sure. So hopefully, it's gonna be a very entertaining discussion.
I have to say that the previous time we have met in this live stream was amazing and eye-opening for me and for many people to watch. Anytime people ask me for the recommendation session we have on the channel, I always send the previous talk. So I'm very excited about this one. Where are you joining us from?
Joining you from Munich,
Oh,
Germany. Yeah,
nice, very nice. So maybe you can walk us through a little bit like structure of platform engineering team.
sure. Should we share the screen or
Yeah,
we go slowly? Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. So I will start with the beginning now. Maybe a short intro in what we discussed in our last session. We more or less had a similar framework like we have now, like a story framework where we had different dimensions, and we were mostly focusing on the challenges that one might have in going to this cloud native journey. And we were focusing, of course, on the collaboration model between internal parties, external parties, different stakeholders. And the focus mainly was on the impact that every single choice and every single iteration was having on different layers now, on the team level, engineering, organization, and group. So in today's session, my goal would be to actually focus this time on the team journey, on the topologies behind that, on the challenges in implementing or migrating or evolving towards one of those challenges. And then at the end, I intend to pause a second because we're going to be speaking about the learnings of every single phase. So you see here, we're going to have 4 sections with learnings for every single evolution of the team. And then we can pause and maybe give the audience the chance to shoot back with some of the questions.
This is great that you mentioned that. For people watching us home or in the office or whatever you are, if you have any questions during the session, something that you want Sergio to clarify, something or other variation of questions that you want to understand better or alternatives, feel free to comment on YouTube on the video or on LinkedIn on the video, and we will get your questions. And from time to time, we will stop to answer them.
Perfect. So let's dive in. In today's discussion, we're going to go through different phases. First phase is going to be mostly focused on platform engineering, and how we started with all that till the moment we realize that we are a platform team. We're going to talk about identities and how we actually managed to build ours. In the next evolution, we're going to talk about a scalable team, because if you're successful, then that success will amplify basically your responsibilities, and therefore you'll have to evolve with that organization. We're gonna go through those challenges, the reason behind scaling the team, and one opinionated way on how to do that. And later we're gonna look at the latest evolution, at least for me, which was becoming a multi-platform team, where you basically with more or less the same personnel, with the same team size, you have to serve multiple platforms and of course multiple organizations, because most likely those platforms are being hosted in different parts of the same organization. I'm gonna start with the beginning. So everyone starts somewhere. You don't necessarily have to be here. I'm talking here about 2021 January, when I joined my current employer, Allianz, I realized that we have to basically understand much more about our work and our identities. So we trigger an audit, both on way of working, on technology, and also on the team topology. And at that time, I was like passionate about reading team topologies, and I immediately identify a pattern, which was that we are in a fake SRE topology. So we believed more or less that we are something that we were not. No, we thought we are SRE. So that was the internal identity. And then we had other parties, other stakeholders, the one you see on the left, like engineering, QA, security, and DBA, that they were having different identities for us. No? Reality was that we were all wrong. We were faking something that was not really yet there. I was lucky to have many other qualities in place, like great internal stuff, and then great architecture that was already following a certain evolution. So on that, we went on a journey of becoming something else. Now, no one wants to be fake. You want to be genuine. So what we did, basically, we decided to become a DevOps team. And in order to do that, we had some very serious conversations about the nature of DevOps, what that means, about the principles behind it. And we didn't stop at the basic definitions because they are generic now, and you want to have something that fits your needs. So we started taking every single principle that was relevant for us behind the DevOps movement, and then we really wrote down what that means for us. We ended up also adding few more principles at the end. Again, we went in the details of that, and finally, at the end, we had a mission. And I remember that back then, without
Sergio,
having any, yes.
sorry interrupting, but people at home saying that they cannot read. If you can zoom in a little bit.
Of course. I can zoom in on the most important part. I believe this is what you're trying to read. So let me zoom in as much as I can. Here we go.
Yeah,
I hope
Martin, let us know, Martin, if you can read it much better now.
Yeah. Is it?
I know. I think there is a delay, but let's keep going, and we will wait for Martin to tell us, to give us feedback.
Okay. Give us the feedback. We can always share afterwards more details in case you're interested. All right. So these are more or less the things we talked about, and the way we approach DevOps, and these are the principles we work with, and we really internalize them. Hello, Guy, can you?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, perfect. I saw some movements in the network. Okay, wonderful. So we decided to write our mission at the end, and we decided back then, before the term platform engineering, we decided to build an internal platform that should be self-service and should evolve continuously. So this was the mission back then in 21. And we started working on that. So I hope you read the things that we have on these slides. Again, we can share more later or afterwards. Don't worry. So I would go in the next phase, which was basically a change in the topology in the first place. I'm going to try to zoom in as much as I can. I hope it's good enough.
Yeah. This is great.
Yeah, so you see here also the mission. We wrote it down. So wanted to be a future-proof platform that enables teams to deploy, monitor, maintain their own production environment. So we were quite ahead of the time back then, and this made us really believe that we can make it. We saw the arguments, we saw the reasons, we saw that technically it's possible, and we decided to become advocates for this mission. And suddenly we took the identity of being DevOps. We all understood the same thing about what DevOps mean. And then we just had to go around, meet our colleagues and stakeholders and repeat the message. and make sure that we are becoming what how we define ourselves. Was not easy. We had lots of conversations, but we needed, of course, to prove that. Now that are not just words, and therefore we had to deliver different results for different stakeholders. And the first ones that we worked with were engineers, of course, and we built a CI/CD pipeline. We measured the impact of that pipeline. We were very fast to market. Productivity was high, quality was high, and we started releasing very fast. I spoke more about this in the previous conversation, so feel free to go to that conversation. Also very happy to take any questions about that journey and that impact. But right now I would like to pause a little bit on the learnings that we had during this journey, from starting in a fake topology and then evolving and building the identity of the DevOps team, central DevOps team, and then of course preaching that all around us. The first and probably one of the most important lesson, and probably for everyone that are now considering starting such a journey, is to be extremely careful with the first hirings. Luck, it's always extremely important. I consider myself extremely lucky to be able to hire. My first 2 or 3 hires was basically the TL, so the technical leads and the PO. And once you have this kind of quality around you, then you're gonna see a lot of benefits. Now, the work ethics for the whole team, the culture will be built around these persons, and of course, the growth of the whole team and of the whole impact that you have on the organization will more or less be driven by these first hirings. They will also most likely recommend you as an employer to their friends. So if the culture is good, and if you like what you're doing, you always have best engineers trying to work with the best engineers. So that's gonna make sure that you're gonna have a lot of quality gravitating around your own team, and from there you're gonna have a very nice setup to build the rest of the journey. The second big learning was that you should focus on really building the innovation sovereignty. It's a concept that I preach lately quite a lot, and I see it more and more relevant. And by this, I understand that you need to have all the technical capabilities, basically, to drive your digital future. That means that you need to have, of course, talent, you need to have vision, and you have to have constant investment in keeping that innovation as high as you have, because innovation is not something stagnant, it's evolving every single day, and you need to have the capacity to continuously innovate. It's also important to obtain this, because you have so many setups. You might be an organization that's clearly investing in externals and you get a lot of manpower from there. You might be another one that has already enough internal staff that has to be maybe retrained on some of the technical stack that you have. So there are different challenges, and finding the balance between how to mix the internal talent and external support, it takes time. What I found very useful for me was that I try to hold the innovation and the wisdom always in the internal team, and then the external partners were always delivering the innovation, the news, the exploration, and helping the internal team to grow as much as they can.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
I would finish with the lessons, and then I would take a pause, and I would take guys, you can be the first one to raise a question, if that's okay.
That's perfectly fine.
All right, so the last one, I'm gonna go fast, and I mentioned it already a few times, is like make sure that you have an identity that you really believe in, and that identity needs to become your external identity, and ideally you're gonna be perceived as a product team, meaning that you're gonna be a team that delivers value, and you will not be perceived, as most often happen, like as an operation team which is attached to a cost center. And therefore, you have to know you're a cost center at the end of the day, focusing on reduction, not on delivering value. All right, I'm going to pause here. Yeah.
It's absolutely something that no one want to be to pursue or proceed as a cost center and not as a value stream center. Something I want to ask you is about hiring and how to hire the best people or the people that fit. Do you have like any, I don't know, two things that you think are the most critical when you hire those people? I'm asking that because some people ask me like, we feel
Mhm.
like we have the right people, but we are not sure about that. What should we look for in our existing team or in the future team when we trying to build a platform team?
I'm gonna speak about that. I didn't have this answer when I did my hirings then, but while we went through this journey, I might have found, at least for us, a framework that works in identifying the next talent that we want to have. But what I can tell about, I mean, you need to be extremely lucky. Of course, context is very different. Now, depending if you're in the US, you have a certain pool of talent, certain budget for that. If you're in Europe, again, you have to be maybe more creative. You have a lot of nearshoring. You might have some internal knowledge as well and internal experts. Important thing is to go to recommendation, to have referrals. Ideally, you have an ex-colleague that you know how much is how much is compatible with what we're gonna do, and culturally that you know that there's gonna be a fit. That's the ideal case. Now you have ex colleagues, or you met someone in the past, and then those persons decide to join you on a journey because they're gonna drive this. As I mentioned, ideally they are technical leads, or of course you can reach out to other good engineers, uh, very good engineers, ideally, and they can recommend their friends, their colleagues, their peers, and that's a good way to start.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it will be very valuable for people to understand what and how to look for, especially when you are in, as you said, like different regions, different areas, different cultures, and you need to take all of that in place. I have to say, for the people that are watching us, if you do have any questions, feel free to comment on the video and ask, and we will ask Sergio a question. So feel free to do that. Cool.
All right,
Let's move on.
we can move on then. All right, so from here we decided to move towards the next phase, which was focusing on technology. And as I mentioned, on impact. If you have a product, then that product obviously needs to be built. This was our product, our proposal. So when we did the auditing on the tooling, on the way of working, then we decided early on to paint two images of the product. One was like the current state, the current view, and then the second was like, how do we want to have that product in 6 months from now? How do we want the product to evolve? Once you do that, you realize a lot of things, like technical depth. I know maybe the mix of tools that maybe are doing the same thing, the lack of ownership over some critical elements that you want to make it part of your innovation sovereignty. So you're gonna have to paint everything, and then you're gonna know probably ideally where you want to work and where you want to start. In our case, once we had this view, we started with the CI/CD because that's where we have most of the suffering going on, and this is also a good place to now get more supporters. Because if you start working with security, if you start working with engineers, and they see the quality that you deliver, they see the impact that you're adding to the work and normally with the business, then you can make sure that the investment continues to flow now, because you're going to have business again perceiving you as a product team, and then they're going to see you as a value stream, and there's going to be some investment that most likely you're going to pitch. Either you're going to want to take some tooling, some cool tooling that makes your life easier, or maybe you want to invest more in the team and you're going to grow the team either with scaling it or investing in skills. You can always inject a great external, an expert in a field, for example, on CI/CD, and then that's an investment that you have to pitch. But if the value is there, then it's much easier to pitch all these things and get stakeholders behind it. So that was the way we approach it, and also we managed to build a backlog, knowing where we want to be in 6 months from now, and that allowed us basically to focus and to fight to get more than 50% of the time in in the product mode. Now, meaning that we want to spend 50% of time building features and evolving the stack towards what we want to design. No? That was important, and again, it needed some more investment, and we delivered the value, and therefore we were lucky enough to have the management backing up that investment. But we also realize that this product is extremely complex, and it comes with complexity, especially the cognitive load of existing members, but especially on the new members. No? Because if you want to have a product, if you want to have impact, you need to scale it. And when you bring someone with less expertise, not everyone can be a technical lead, then it's going to become overwhelming. And when you have someone joining a team with such a cognitive load, and it's not maybe able to deliver anything in the next 6 months, then that becomes really, really painful now for someone that want to have an impact. And this is exactly the profile that you're looking. Now, you're looking for a profile that's going to suffer in a certain complex environment. So how do you make sure that the persons you're adding are having a smooth landing, and they also get to know the product without being overwhelmed? No? So the solution for us was to apply the reverse Conway maneuver, where we basically look at the stack, and then we said this stack has domains, and ideally we're going to have one DDO, so distributed DevOps, that's the way we call it. We have one DDO per domain. A DDO, basically, it's a group of persons with different roles, ideally three, no? Because we have three roles. You have a junior or more juniors that are just learning about that domain, like CI/CD. And then you have an executor, one or more executors that execute on the backlog. And then you have one consultant that basically writes the roadmap and prioritizes basically the whole execution of that domain. Of course, this has to be aligned with the whole product, because the holistic view, it's important, and rotation, it's essential. Ideally, every few months, you're going to start as a junior in a DDO, you go as executor for 2 months, and then you become a consultant. With becoming a consultant in a DDO, you're going to spend maybe 10-15% instead of 80%, which means it's giving you now more availability to invest and become a junior in another DDO. And if you repeat that a few times, you're going to be covering a very nice part of the platform, and you're going to start becoming part of the decisions which are being made for evolving the whole product.
Wow, this is amazing because it allows people from one side to execute and deliver value into the team. But on the other side, there is a lot of self-development in here, something that is critical for engineers, and they are challenged every time they're moving from one domain to the other, which kind of can fit all. One question I have is how many engineers are in total, moving between the domains? Is 3 multiple the number of the domains?
No, we have somewhere around, so the average during this period was somewhere around 12 persons. And then obviously every single person was part of 2 or 3 DDOs, but with different roles. You're like junior in one, executor. Most likely, if you're executor in one DDO, you were only executing that DDO. In the others, you had different roles, because that's where you need to focus on growing yourself, and of course executing the roadmap of the product. Yeah.
Wow. Super interesting.
And you're completely right about also the growth behind it, because right now almost every enterprise, they need to have this evolution of the targets of the year. And what we did, we said we'd want to have concrete targets, and basically the targets will be attached to these DDOs. So one target could be you become the consultant in the DDO that you're currently a junior. That's a target for the year. And then you start being exposed to those 2 other DDOs. And then you know that you need to grow your API and maybe your AWS, and that's basically the target. And this target is being reviewed not by me as a product owner, but by the whole team. You have the technical leads evaluating on some qualities, and then you have the rest of the members basically evaluating every single person. So, and we do that now to really give feedback soon and make sure that your identity, again, we end up with identities now, your identity, it's matching the identity of your team, because we always believe that the team has to be prioritized whenever we choose what to invest in.
Amazing, amazing, and the fact that you have added like a measurement aspect and goal aspects to it really makes it something that like teams, like regardless of being platform engineers, struggling with how do I define goals, how do I measure my people, how do I make sure they progress at the same time. It's a really good method for all in all. Sorry for interrupted. It just got me very excited.
No worries. Actually, we're going to land exactly on that a little bit later. So let's make sure we get there. So I'm going to move a little bit to the next one. We already saw this, and actually, this is the part where we can cover that. Again, this is also the setup that we invested in. I'm going to zoom in. So this is like an overview. I'm going to talk about the first frame is going to be about the interaction internally and externally between the DDOs, but also with the outside parties. And I'm going to talk about the scaling effect of this. And then I'm going to be focused, and we can spend more time on the DevOps maturity. And this is the framework where we both evaluate, set up the targets, where we take into account all the stack, but also when you hire someone, you can already look here, you go to the same evaluation, and then you're going to know that you're going to hire someone that can contribute immediately in the DDO. No, but let's go first with the most non-interesting frame, which is probably this topology. I found it extremely useful because we were in a situation where we scale as an organization, let's say from 300 employees to 1,500 employees, and from, I don't know, 100 engineers to 500 engineers. And you can't scale your platform engineering as fast as the rest of the organization. And also you can't motivate the investment in a team larger than, I don't know, 10, 15 person. Now that's quite difficult to have. The business case is going to be complicated because the value that you produce has to be really, really, really high. So then we're talking about a different scale again. So what we did in order to compensate for that was that we started building early on. You saw the mission initially. We executed on the mission. We wanted to be self-managed platform. So once we enable and we went on a journey of implementing SRE, we took the chance of building a community of SRE people in all the squads that we are serving on the engineering side. And soon after, we expanded the scope of SRE, and we said, now you can do identity, now you can do APIs, now you can do so many other points that we are covering with our platform. So if the education is there and the platform is designed to be self-service, was just a matter of making sure that this role, the federated DevOps, is being recognized again in the organization. Again, identity, right? And then there is a certain investment here. So business accepted that every single squad will have one federated DevOps that will spend 20% of its time on the operation concerns. Now that's vulnerability management, SRE, observability, you name it. Now everything that had to do with operation, and mainly we were like driving the agenda for IT operations. Right, so that's how we ended up with the model that scales with the organization while you keep the team efficient, cost efficient, but also technically engaged in evolving the platform even further. So you don't increase the burnout and you kill your roadmap. And we were talking already a few times about this way of measuring and steering the quality and the growth of the engineers behind such an impactful team. You cannot impact a large organization with a team of 12 persons unless that team is really, really efficient. And in order to be efficient and to evolve continuously the product, we had to make sure that the technology stack, so the first few dimensions like observability, CI/CD, SRE, Kubernetes, all the way to security, it's being covered. Technically, what you see here is a technical lead profile. And then on top of that, through different iteration, we said, no, but now we are becoming actually more software engineers because you do infrastructure as a code, you do a lot of scripting. So we all have to get used in writing coding. So we added it as a dimension where we have to grow. And then we had AI for a while. Now, not that much. We only focus mostly on productivity using AI, not that much on building AI use cases. We did that for a while. And then, of course, quality it's extremely important. And what we as a POs are very much interested was the focus, the growth, and the impact. And these go hand in hand. So if someone is joining your team, they need to start focusing on growing the expertise. And they start with one DDO, they execute on that. And that's going to be in the holistic product. You're going to get, whether you want or not, the exposure to most of the stack. And if you focus on that, you're going to grow so much. And if you grow so much, you're going to have also an impact, again, on the team level. And this is the way we measure now ourselves. And this is the way we do the hiring. And this is the way we steer also the evolution of our platform.
Wow. So it's super interesting to see like how do you measure and how do you decide what do you need? But let me give you, I don't know, like tough question. What happens when you need to add like one more dimension? I know something is changing because the AI was not there 3 years ago. And how do you tackle that? Because challenges are always changing.
Well, if it's becoming a new DDO, it's not a big impact. It's like most likely everyone will be a one, and that's okay. Maybe we have a two, and then we can set up goal that at least one or two of the engineers in the team needs to become consultants, which means they have to go to four in the next 6 months or so. So that's normally how we handle these kind of journeys.
Amazing, amazing. Do you know any other ways to manage that? Like I know people do the same thing, but on their mind. Um, but maybe, but there is the way to break in those into like teams, like make them separated at all, um, and that makes people to focus on specific domain and be the experts of that domain. But there are like
I
three people being the experts.
Yeah, I never found that very useful because again, as long as you have a product, you have to treat it holistically. And what we see is that if you want to evolve it, which we did now to be able to scale globally, then you need to have the decision makers behind evolving your product. And the product, it's all these concerns, all these concerns, they have to holistically understand most of the stack. I mean, if you look at this profile as a technical lead, this is the person that needs to make those decisions because he knows that if I'm fine tuning and I'm adding a new tool, maybe on observability, that will have an impact on I don't know on CI/CD. And if you do something on CI/CD, the identity IAM will suffer, and maybe the APIs will not have the metrics anymore in place. No, so every single decision that you make to evolve the product has to be made holistically. And how do you grow profiles that holistically can be, can make the right decisions? So I always felt like the teams have to be extremely well connected and they have to build the spirit of a team because there's so much sharing that needs to happen in order for a DDO and multiple DDOs to work together that I can't see that happening where they have different agendas.
Thank you for that. Let's move on. We don't have a lot of time left,
That's
and we have
true.
a lot to cover.
That's true. All right. So from here, where did we go from here? Now, once we did this, we had the framework for uh, all this, and we went to learning. So these are the main learnings. So we should pause. We already took the pause, so I'm going to go through them. If there are questions, happy to take them. If not, we can fly to the next one. So first of all was to really design and write down a technical stack. Reference architecture style would be very cool, and always keep at least two different states of your tech stack, the desired one and the present one, and between that you're going to have your backlog and spend as much time as you can in the backlog. Again, different context, different negotiation, different management style, so it's up for you to find the journey here. And then we have the complexity. It's extremely high when you do this kind of platform engineering and you look at all the components which are part of it and try to reduce that complexity. And one way to do that is, of course, to break it in smaller granular tech domains which can be managed easily and evolve easily the rest, but also make sure that you don't get in a silos at the end, and you always keep an eye on the holistic view, or at least you have one or two persons capable of having the holistic view and then making sure the decision making process is flowing in the right direction. And then, of course, focus on the domain level knowledge. Um, and of course, also make sure that you have exposure to the rest of the stack while you're focused on delivering domain level knowledge, experience. And also, if you want to scale with your approach, then make sure you invest in models similar to federated DevOps, because there's no way you can scale a DevOps team to support, let's say, 5,000 engineers. That's impossible for different reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Should I pause or do we go a little
No,
bit
I
further?
think we should keep going.
All right. So next iteration for us was, and here I really need to zoom. Let me zoom in. I hope it's good enough. Was becoming something that I call org ops, so organization ops. One misconception about platform engineering is that you focus on tooling, and I say you have to focus on experience. And also another misconception is that you only have one stakeholder, which are software engineers. And what I'm trying to say is that you have the whole organization as a stakeholder. Whoever whoever has any interest in production state, then that's going to be your stakeholder. Like you can have compliance, for example. We had so much interaction with the compliance in the last 2 years, unbelievable. No, and they became our stakeholders. They have things in our backlog, when we produce value for this team. And then we have security, we have delivery, we have incident management, sustainability. Of course, it's a big factor. Architecture, of course, we identify how many times they added things in our backlog. So whoever has now the interest and gets value from putting a task in your backlog, that's your stakeholder. And you should engage in a certain conversation and make sure that your product is going to deliver the value that they expect from this. So this is what I call org-ops. And this, again, force us to change a little bit now the team structure and the way we work with the outside world. And that accumulated to the scaling effect that we already had, put a lot of stress on the team and basically force us to protect the core DevOps team from unnecessary noise. Again, you scale, yes, you do have federated DevOps, yes, but then you have thousands of access management requests. Then you have technical support about, I don't know, understanding and finding a documentation about CI/CD, a software release. You're going to have a lot of noise on just from engineering side. You're going to have a lot of incidents, and there is always a long process of handling the production management. You might have a problem management follow-up, postmortems, reporting, many things that have to be isolated. And then, of course, you have a lot of compliance. At least in my job, compliance is becoming one of the biggest and most demanding stakeholders, in the sense that they demand now in 1 month you have to be able to deliver whatever it's being requested. So we realize that this work doesn't really necessarily has to sit with the core DevOps. They have to focus at least 50%. We want to keep this on the backlog and evolve the whole product. So we invented new roles and we hire new persons, new engineers, like super junior engineers that were capable of growing themselves and understand also on one side what we do, and manage to translate that to the stakeholders. Now we hire a compliance, for example, officer or compliance engineer. His role is all about understanding what we do and having an interface with all the compliance person coming and making sure that the documentation flows. And then we have tech desk or developer service hub, we call it, where we have engineers doing IAM, so access management access, and then tickets resolving, self-service, doing on-call for first-level support. So my team that is doing 24/7 is not so impacted and burn out. And we also invented the role of a ninja of the day, meaning that one member of the DevOps team, core DevOps team, will always be the ninja and taking all the support tickets that are flowing from the shielding the rest of the team and allowing them to stay in the flow state, and of course now moving the product further.
Wow. And for how long are they being a ninjas?
All right, Guy, can you still hear me? I
Yeah.
hope.
I think something broke a little bit with the internet. I asked for. Oh, I think we lost Sergio. I think there is an internet connection problem. And we will wait for a few more seconds. So it's a good time to update while we are waiting for Sergio to re-log in into the session. So one thing that is critical and important to understand is that this is the flow of the organization, and what you should do is basically uh, cherry pick which challenges you are facing, what solution do you want to put in place, which cultural challenges you want to have, and have a solution for them, and learn from what Sergio explained. As, hey, Sergio, you came back. You think you had some
Apologize.
internet connection problem.
Yeah, that's becoming a big problem for me. Indeed. Let me share the screen again.
No worries.
I don't know when you lost me.
So you finished the sentence, and I asked like how long the ninja is being a ninja. Is it like 1
Correct.
week, few
1
days?
day.
1 day. Oh, so you're
1
a
day.
ninja for a day.
Ninja for a day. Exactly. You can't handle more than that. Yeah, it's a ninja for a day, and it's very important to do that because you are in contact with all the problems around you. So at one point we said, should we do it? Should we do it different? And then the team members came back and said, no. This is for us a reality shower. We need to understand the impact of the platform, and this is the best way to do it.
Cool. Got it. Okay, let's move on.
Cool. So the learnings on this, on the org ops. So first of all, we have to know, discover, and engage with your stakeholders, and that's gonna be a continuous process. You're gonna discover new stakeholders on the way, and some others will become more silent or less active. But for us, it was very important to understand the following: now the business, engineers, security, compliance, and ESG, and really looking into the value that we are delivering now, and emphasize that and make sure that we amplify also the value we are doing, like time to market, productivity, the cost efficiency of the platform. That's extreme, and reliability, of course, it's extremely precious for business. We need to understand the metrics, set up OKRs ideally to maintain the quality and ideally improve on that. And then on engineers, no need to mention, it's clear. Security, I believe, is quite clear. And compliance, of course, it's for us, it's a very important stakeholder. The second learning was that burnout is real, and you need to design measures in whatever you do in all your processes, like reduce the complexity, invent new roles, and that comes normally from having retrospective, continuous retrospect, like every 2 weeks or at least once a month, and really hear the pains that the team is going through, and of course try to react to that. The more value you deliver, again, the more chances you have to make the proper investment, to amplify the team that is so precious for the stakeholders above. Okay, guys, should I pause here a second?
Cool.
Do you have any questions, or should I move on?
And no,
We
we
don't
don't
have many
have.
slides. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, this is the last slide for today.
We have two more.
2 more. So let's move
Two
on.
more. Two more. So bear with us. I'm gonna go fast. So the next for us was the next evolution phase was the age of platforms, I like to call it, because we were so successful with one platform. We were tasked to build second, and then we ended up with the third one. Now we try to know, we're talking about complexity, to really stay only with two different versions. It seems you need more than one because obviously the business that you serve is extremely diverse and they have different problems. Like in our case, one had to scale globally. And when you do that, there's no way you can handle it, let's say, with EKS. For us, it was not possible because you need to go in every single market, like Australia, Brazil, and you need to hire the best engineers from the market, and that's very complicated. So we simplify that. We put more complexity in the core infrastructure clusters, and then we build, for example, with Fargate multi-tenancy on a black box with Fargate. No? So you just need good engineers with SRE level, a good SRE expertise that can work with the black box. So we simplify through design and architecture. But evolving from one platform to another one and keeping, of course, the core as similar as possible, like 80-90% of that again implies a lot of investment. And we had, for example, all three technical leads that we had, like almost for 1 year, that I fully focus on this. And I mentioned why they are very important, to make the proper decision, because they have this holistic view and they make the most efficient decisions probably for the team. But again, then you have to pause and make sure that the rest of the team, it's part of the journey, and they own, of course, the product, because that belongs to the whole team. So also you need to take the chance to bring back the expertise after you move so fast through to some of the decisions. And I believe the last slide is mainly about the learnings we have. So actually we have two more now. So we have the new topology behind that. It's something like this. I'm not going to spend much time because more or less is the one we had previously, but of course with different interaction points. And then the lessons we collected during this phase are the following. Tech lead role, it's extremely important. You might call it, and I know, cloud architect, but has to be, of course, hands-on because it's extremely impactful on the whole team. The work ethics, the fast decisions, the holistic decisions, the architecture of the platform, and of course also mentoring the other team members. It's a critical role. Try to simplify as much as possible. So if you find out that you shouldn't do DBs, then simply go as a service. Simplify operation by removing all the alerts that don't have a runbook. It's only noise. You always and constantly challenge your architecture and try to evolving as much as possible. This is probably the best FinOps measure that you can put in place, like really having a very good architecture. And then, yes, try to work with external parties and get more help wherever you need it. Another one is, of course, try to really become an influencer in all the cloud's operation decisions. Imagine someone will be writing an operational model. Well, you better be the one that it's either writing it or it's having a word to say here, because otherwise you're going to have an operational model that doesn't fit your reality, and that's going to really, really put you in some situation politically and also efficiency-wise. Make sure you write the IT strategy and you find a role there, and engage with enterprise architecture and the other technical roles.
I think this is extremely.
And that would be all.
I think it's extremely important to understand that you need to be an influencer is very important. You don't want to be passive towards the decision. You want actively driving them, actively be present on those discussions, decision. And this is really critical because some teams do wait for other organization to take the decision for them. And it's okay that someone there will take a decision, but you want to be extremely influence this decision, which is this is what you should strive for.
Completely agree with that. Yes, that's our experience. It's it's simplifying your life. But again, this comes again to the identity that you manage to build, your reputation. If you manage to deliver value now, then you're going to be taken seriously, and people will reach out to you because you became an expert in cloud. You are being perceived as the expert in cloud. So whenever someone is going to touch the cloud in any way, ideally they're going to invite you to the conversation, and you should embrace that because it's a chance to really to make sure that your constraints are less damaging. No, that would be the ideal case.
Absolutely. So I think that, Sergio, you shared a lot today. You shared the structure, the organization's decision, which decisions or key highlights learning people should learn from you. And what I said when the internet disconnected is that for people that watching us should understand your flow, your chain of thoughts, your what made you take the decision, what went successful for you, and try to take from that what will be successful for them. And this is great because there is a lot of content they can take, and there is a lot of lesson learned they can take and adjust to themselves. So first of all, thank you very much for sharing this information. I know it's little bit hard to go through the journey, understand what the key takeaways. And thank you very much for coming in here, sharing that. I know it's extremely helpful for our audience to hear that and get that. um, for me, it's always been a pleasure being with you, if it's online on a live stream, if it's offline on a preparation discussions or whatever. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing. For the people in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to comment, even offline. If I will find any comment, I will try to reach out to Sergio to help you answer those. And that's it. Next week, we have a really good live stream about Terraform and OpenTOF best practices. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and
Thank you
see
very
you
much.
next week.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure. Bye.
Bye bye.